Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure. Today's adventure is a 1985 200S. We dragged this bike out of the bushes, and quite honestly, I don't remember where I got it from and what its story is. Probably it came from Stony, up near Albany there. That's where I think it came from, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so here's the tags. And we kind of went through it and we said, are we going to keep this? Or are we going to part it out? And we decided to keep it. So given that we're going to keep it, let's start talking about where the money's going to go. I went through the trouble of putting air in all the tires, and the back tires are no good. So there's your first $100. So put that in mind. Second problem right up front is the gas tank is really kind of a mess. What does that mean to you? Because it means something different to me. To me, what it means is, am I going to take that tank over there and put it on here because that's a 200S tank? Or am I going to figure out what the story is on this 200S tank? So that's kind of what it means to me. Or am I going to put a little tank into it? But to you, it's like, can this be fixed? What could I do with it? And so forth. It's had kind of a rough life, right? It's been bondoed up and so forth. So, I don't know. I like, if I were gonna save this tank intact, I would clean it all up, right? I personally like the red coat stuff. It stays softer, kind of what you're doing is putting a flexible polymer bag inside your gas tank. It does stick to the gas tank, but it stays kind of flexible. I like it better than cream. This one happens, I think this has cream in it. That's what it looks like, that white stuff. The cream stuff to me has a tendency to get a little more ceramic-y, and because of that, should you bang the tank around, I think it has a tendency to crack more, which exposes metal, which gives you an area to rust again. So my personal preference is the red coat. So now that we've discussed the tires and the tank, there are some really nice things about this motor. Could have loosened this before. This motor came through with an air cleaner. That's a really, really good sign. When you kind of get into these things and the air cleaner box is all kinds of holes drilled into it and you don't find an air cleaner there, you got to really worry about what kind of shape the motor's going to be in. I checked the oil. It was a little bit low. I already put oil into this, and I looked around. The ignition system appears to be completely intact, right? I don't see anything too strange with it. I mean, white and blue go to the headlight, then you pick up ground, so these wires are all there. I mean, it looks like it's in pretty good shape. Before I cut the hose and lifted the gas tank off, this hose is pretty crispy and leaky, I'd say. I noticed the gas tank was turned off. That's a really good sign because it means the carburetor is probably in halfway decent shape. They probably shut it down and ran it out of gas. I keep looking at this bike, and there's just some things I always look at and I just don't remember. And then there are some other things that I have a tendency to do. I don't remember the gas tank with the cream in it. I don't remember, like these clamps here. These look like they've been on for a while. I have the feeling I bought this bike and I was too busy to do anything with it, and I did not. The carburetor looks like a an original. This is tight, as in it won't come off. I'm think I never worked on this bike, so I must have just bought this and put it in the hoard and stopped there. Anyway, I'm going to cue this thing up. Let's see if it'll start. Let's see how much it smokes. And from there, we got to make some decisions. Be right back. So here we are. The camera's all queued up. I put gas into the hose. I replaced the hose because it was just shot. I'm going to try to start it without starting fluid. So the choke is on, the engine's on, the throttle field's loose. So let's see if she's going to start for us. Ooh, promising. Turn the idle up. Obviously this thing was run out of gas. It does appear to be a smoker. The valves and all sound pretty good. I mean, considering the carburetor wasn't rebuilt or anything. Now I wonder if the Beatles built a house. Listen. Yeah, there is a little bit of back pressure on that, so I'm gonna have to check. I'm gonna have to check that recirc system to see if bugs built nests in it. But it really looks pretty good. If somebody went out and bought this bike, you should be happy. Just from a parts point of view, round numbers. The seat's worth about $100. The recoil's worth $100. Front fender's not worth much. Tires aren't worth much. The engine starting and running means it's worth a couple $100, right? So just in parts, if one were going to part this out and start throwing money around, it does have a decent trunk. One of the fenders is pretty good. The other one is there. You know. Obviously it has an ignition system and a carburetor that function. This thing in parts, unfortunately it's probably worth more than it is intact. I would expect to pay, I don't like to pay full price for it. Before I started it, you know, this is like $250 to $200. I mean, I'd like to pay $50, but you're not finding them for $50 anywhere around me anymore. Chances are, somebody could probably talk me into giving them $250 to $300. Once again, before I started it, because I would see that the recoil was there. I would see that the wiring wasn't messed around with, you know. And once again, the seat really is a big piece of this, the recoil. So anyhow, what are we gonna do next to this? I gotta figure out a gas tank situation, and I gotta figure out the back tires. Once I do that, I can put it together and go forward with it. About back tires, these not so good back tires for riding this kind of bike. These also not so good back tires for this bike. That, or really those are a nice set of back tires. They're softer, they're a little more balloony. With these hardtails, if you don't put soft balloon style back tires on it, you better be a young person, because for us older guys, it makes the back really hurt. So I'd like, and these are in holding air, which makes the bike quite honestly a pest to have around. If you stand it up on its back seat bar, whatever you want to call that thing, if the tires go flat, it has a tendency to try to flop back down. So you really need to get tires in it. If you keep it in its normal footprint, if the tires go flat, it's hard to move around. You got to keep picking it up and putting air in the tires, and you know, it's just more work. So one way or the other, I do have to figure out the tire situation. I think these tires overall are good. I'm not seeing, you know, the cracks of death. And as a matter of fact, I've just figured out that this one, other than the hub in the center, really is no good. Once you see water come out of them as you're trying to break the bead, that means they're all rusty inside, and it really doesn't pay to do much with the wheel or anything. So anyhow, I got to sort my way through a gas tank and a set of tires, and then I think this thing is a runner. I'm trying to figure out if it'll go into gear. Yeah, it just clicked into gear, so I think the transmission's okay. All right, I want to thank you all for talking me into saving this thing. It does look like it was much more than worth saving. I want to thank everybody for watching and commenting and subscribing. Please remember, feet down, heads up, and get out there and enjoy each and every day. Bye now.